It's late July, which, for people in Iowa, means it's sweet corn season. And while corn may just be corn for people in many areas, sweet corn is a cultural icon in Iowa, an institution. Families have their preferred producers, and everyone in the state likes to brag that Iowa has the best sweet corn in the world. It's a hard point to argue against. Sweet corn in Iowa is, without a doubt, delicious. But where does sweet corn come from? Why is it such a big deal? And what is the future of sweet corn in our state? My name is Beth Hoffman, and I'm a journalist and author. And this is At the Iowa Farm Table, a podcast where we look at what does and does not work in our food system from right here in the middle of the country, Iowa. This podcast is a production of the Iowa Food System Coalition, a group of more than 50 organizations committed to making Iowa's foodways more sustainable, healthy, and just. It's very early on a Monday morning, and I'm with a few high school-aged workers in what seems to me to be a wet, soggy sweet corn field.
It's actually very dry this morning because there's usually a heavy dew. It's easier to pick, whereas today it's dry, so it's harder.
That's Nolan. He picks corn for Dan D Farms, spelled D-A-N-D, outside of Knoxville, Iowa.
Just needed a job, it's local, and it's just one of a kind, you know? Picking sweet corn, you don't get to do that very often.
Alex is also picking this morning.
I like it. People are really fun to talk to and walk around with, and it's a pretty relaxing job, really.
How so? It seems very physical. What's relaxing?
Just the sound of the corn is really, when it breaks off, it's really relaxing.
Let's hear what that sounds like. It's pretty satisfying, huh?
It is.
My folks lived their whole life remembering the Depression. I lived my whole life remembering the farm crisis because no matter how hard you worked or what you did, you lost money. It was ugly. It was really ugly.
That's Dan Dennison, the Dan of Dan D Farms, where Nolan and Alex now work.
Sweet corn kind of helped us heal on that a little bit. And so it is special for us in that way.
In the early 1990s, Dan had enough of borrowing money and going farther and farther into debt. He sold much of the land and the house, and the family moved into town. It was then, he told me, that his adventure growing sweet corn began by accident.
The real story is that I planted a half-acre corn kind of late for the kids to sell in town. It's cute to have them sell corn, it's like a lemonade stand. And it happened to mature about the time we have the Sprint Car Nationals in Knoxville. And a friend of mine said, you should go out to the racetrack and sell it for $1 an ear. And I said, I want nothing to do with the racetrack. And my wife said, yeah, we'll do that.
As his wife had expected, the sales at the track went really well. And so the next year, the family grew more, and the year after that, a little more.
The sweet corn really came in, I would say, behind the worst part of the farm crisis. It was the first thing I ever raised, agriculture-wise, where I controlled the price, and people thanked me for doing it.
Sweet corn is unique in Iowa, and not just because of its great taste. It's one of the only foods many Iowans buy directly from a farmer. We want to know where our sweet corn comes from and when it was picked, and we don't really care how much it costs. It isn't a cheap commodity like so much else eaten in Iowa. Sweet corn is special, and farmers set their own price, unlike when they grow field corn or soybeans.
You farmed and you sold the stuff, and sometimes the price was good, sometimes it was bad, but you had some control over that aspect. And people, they were excited about it. They still do. They thank us all the time for raising sweet corn.
I'm Darcy Malsby, and I'm a fifth-generation farmer, and I am also a writer. I have written 8 books of nonfiction Iowa history.
Darcy Malsby wrote the book A Culinary History of Iowa, Sweet Corn, Pork Tenderloins, Maid-Rights, and more. I asked her where Iowa's fascination with sweet corn started.
The start would be with the Native American peoples who were here long before us, and so the history of corn in Iowa goes back thousands of years.
Corn was first cultivated in the Americas about 10,000 years ago, but sweet corn was first bred by the Iroquois, or Six Nations people, in what is today the northeast of the U.S. Sweetness is a mutation in the flint corn they grew, the kind of corn that you usually dry into flour or grits. Instead, they began to eat sweet corn when it's immature in what's called the milky stage, the point when the corn's sweetest. And although Iowa is now known for what's called dent corn, corn used to feed livestock or make ethanol fuel, sweet corn had its heyday in Iowa too.
By the late 1870s, early 1880s, sweet corn was becoming fairly big business in parts of Iowa. You would have groups of local businessmen getting together to build processing plants.
Iowa once led the world in canned sweet corn production. In 1924, Iowa had almost 60 sweet corn canning factories around the state.
I was surprised at how many towns had these processing plants. So some of these little plants were cranking out 300,000 cans of sweet corn a season out of just one plant, which I find remarkable.
But by the time the Great Depression rolled around, many of the smaller farms and plants were struggling to survive.
And so that's what kind of paved the way for some of this consolidation where you start seeing big companies like Green Giant buying up these smaller processing plants and that industry essentially shifting up to southern Minnesota where the climate's just a little bit easier to grow some of those vegetables because it's not quite so hot, not quite so humid.
But Iowa's love of the vegetable never faltered.
You know, sweet corn is just kind of like the king of summer.
The first time in the year that you see that roadside stand, the one in front of the hardware store or in the high school parking lot, it's exciting. The sweet corn is ready, and it's time to gather friends and family together to barbecue or to put up the corn in the freezer for the winter. Sweet corn has come to symbolize so much for Iowans.
What's it mean?
What's it mean to you?
For doing it for 30 years, at the rate we've done it, it's almost family. My family, all the kids grew up with it. My grandkids have come and picked, and they've sold, and really, I think a lot of people that buy corn from us almost feel like they're family, you know.
Dan's daughter, Deborah, agrees. She now runs Dandy Farms and has talked with countless customers who see her sweet corn as an essential part of their lives.
We get a lot of people who stop at the stand and they'll say, oh, this corn's going to Colorado, or I'm headed to Arkansas, or taking this to Florida. And it's, oh, our kid moved there. All they want us to bring back is sweet corn, or we're going up to see family and they've never had good Iowa sweet corn. They've only had grocery store sweet corn. And so it's funny how people want to share it. They take it everywhere with them.
We've become very proficient in this state, incredibly efficient at growing commodities like corn and soybeans, and there's always going to be a need and a place for that. But there is more to the story than that.
Darcy Malsby sees great potential in sweet corn for Iowa's future, much as there are for other crops like oats. New processing plants for a range of crops would help expand the diversity of what's grown in Iowa, which, she believes, would attract more young farmers, people who might have an interest in growing other things.
Not only is this a way to diversify the crops that we grow, which I think is critical to soil health and to addressing some of our water quality issues, but there's a real chance for farmers to reap profitability. And I wonder if this is something that can take root. What other possibilities do we have if we think beyond just the two-crop corn-soybean rotation?
Malsby points out that the connection sweet corn farmers have to their customers is a very attractive thing for newer, possibly younger farmers.
One thing I've always liked about sweet corn, there is no more direct connection. This is truly farm to fork.
They're buying from you because they trust you.
Again, Dan Dennison.
I hate to use the word love, but I have really enjoyed raising sweet corn. I mean, I really have. And I really like the relationships we built. I mean, we have people that are incredibly loyal.
It feels important to take note that sweet corn isn't easy. It takes work to get to the stand when it's open, to shuck it, to freeze it, and yet people in Iowa do it, which is why sweet corn is a gateway food, the kind of food that can show people what's possible in Iowa and what's possible is delicious, fresh food. So let's end today's episode by telling you about a campaign to help you find that fresh, delicious food.
So I want people to think about local food as something that isn't extra, that it's the default. It's worth your time and for so many different reasons.
Mallory DeVries leads Grow, Eat, Play, a local foods campaign from our partners at Healthy Harvest of North Iowa. They help sponsor today's show.
Grow, Eat, Play's primary goal is to shift consumer perception so that local food feels invaluable, accessible, and essential.
Kind of like the way we feel about sweet corn in Iowa. No one would go without it, but we could also feel that way about tomatoes, broccoli, beef, even our Iowa-grown and crafted tofu. The Grow, Eat, Play Hub has hundreds of locally inspired recipes and seasonal eating resources. Visit our show notes for more information on this and other resources from today's episode. And another thing you can do, buy and eat corn from your favorite sweet corn stand. And while you're there, pick up some other local items. Let the farmers know what other kinds of produce you'd buy from them. Maybe next year you can commit more of your weekly budget to locally grown foods. Very special thanks to Dan Dennison, Deborah Kearney, Alex and Nolan, and to Darcy Malsby. Mallory DeVries was also an editor. This is At the Iowa Farm Table, a production of the Iowa Food System Coalition. And I'm Beth Hoffman. Thanks for your interest in Iowa-grown food. We'll see you next time.